So I'd like to welcome and thank you for coming to today's Visionary Leaders Panel and Culinary Marketplace. I'm Stephen Gordon. I'm founding chairman and CEO of Genesis Bank. You may remember the previous bank that we built was Opus Bank here in Southern California and up and down the entire West Coast. And as one of only two diverse multiracial minority depository institutions out of nearly 4,600 banks in the U.S. And I'm going to pause there for a moment because, well, thank you. And I'm going to pause there because, and go off script, sorry, Emil. But I was asked earlier, I got a sandwich in between. I got like a 30-minute break today, got a sandwich and came back. And as I was coming back, I ran into somebody who's here somewhere. I think you're right now, somewhere. And someone said, so can you tell me what an MDI is? That was you, there you are. Yep, you're in the green? Yep, all right. So I thought that was an interesting moment because, we know what an MDI is. We live it every day. We wear it on our sleeves. An MDI, a minority depository institution, out of, again, 4,600 banks, there are only 143 of them in the entire U.S. And of the 143, there's only 3 of us, I think the number is now, that are actually designated as diverse, multiracial minority depository institutions. And by definition, to achieve that designation, you've got to be extraordinarily intentional about making a difference, having an impact in our diverse communities, wherever our banks may reside and wherever markets we focus on in the United States. And here, Southern California is the second largest market in the U.S., but the most diverse market in the entire U.S. from a diversity, minority, ethnicity standpoint, and within that, incredibly entrepreneurial. And if you think about Orange County, LA County, Riverside, San Bernardino counties, we range anywhere from 60 to 75% minority population. And you could extrapolate the same information, same data, and get to the same conclusion about the diversity of businesses that we have in Southern California. So we thought it was incredibly important, and some of us are getting old now. And I kind of thought that at this phase in life, we got to be incredibly intentional and really lead by example and really make a difference in the communities that we serve. And we're actually capable, believe it or not, because a lot of people won't admit it anymore, we're capable of making money and making a difference all at the same time. So that's who we are, what we do, and we live it and breathe it, and it's really in our souls about what we are as a bank. We're not just a bank, we're a bank that makes a difference and has an impact in our communities. Now I got to figure out where I was back in my notes. So we consider these experiential events to be an invaluable way that we can support businesses and entrepreneurs within our community. We believe that storytelling is actually a powerful tool to connect, relate, teach, and inspire. I guarantee you that if we put out that invitation that we put out to the whole community, the business community, and we invited you all in for financial literacy education, I think maybe 4 people would have shown up, right? But everybody here on this stage has a fascinating story to tell about their career, their achievements, their real life story, and their passion. And subliminally, don't hold me to this, but subliminally, you're going to get a lot of financial education, career education. Hopefully, we inspire you. We make a difference in the direction you're going in life, and maybe some ideas hit you that really kind of make you, pause and think about doing something that you too hopefully make a difference with in your lives. So today you'll have the opportunity to hear from the innovative visionary leaders behind Orange County's celebrated destinations where culture, community, culinary excellence converge. We'll delve into how these iconic leaders and locations have supported local and minority-owned entrepreneurs, empowering them to bring innovative ideas directly to consumers, and how these innovators are contributing to the vibrant and diverse fabric of our communities. I'm sure the conversation will be lively, informative, maybe controversial at times. I hope that Emil and I, if this goes really well, trust me, 10 minutes into it, Emil and I are going to lose total control of our moderating capabilities, and this group here is going to kind of take over. And I encourage you to feel free to do so. I'd like to thank our lead sponsor for today's event, City of Hope of Orange County. And I'll tell you something, it is a miracle that we've got City of Hope right here in Orange County. and that not everybody has to go to Duarte, to deal with their, for cancer treatment, that we actually have it right here. It's an amazing place. It's really very concierge-like, and very special and near and dear to, my family's heart. And participating sponsor, Pristine Plumbing, for their community support. I'm glad they're here. Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge some special guests who are here, hopefully here. There are a number of seats that just have signs, and so they may not be here. But we learned, unfortunately, this morning that Santa Ana Mayor Valerie Amezcua would no longer be able to join us today, but we're pleased to have with us from the city of Santa Ana, Elizabeth Rosales here representing Santa Ana's Mayor Pro Tem Thai Viet Phan, and Tram Lee, Arts and Culture Specialist for the city of Santa Ana. From the city of Costa Mesa, Mayor John Stevens. From the city of Fountain Valley, Vice Mayor Ted Bui. I saw you, Ted, a little while ago. Where are you, Ted? Ted's here. Scott Doe here representing California State Senator Josh Newman, a dear friend of ours. Charles Kim here representing California State Senator Dave Min. Tina Doe here from the Orange County Registrar of Voters. From the city of Irvine, Daniel Hahn, Economic Development Manager. Betty Martinez-Franco, DEI Committee member from the city of Irvine. From the city of La Palma, Belindis Danis, Planning Manager from the city of La Palma. From the city of Coachella, go Coachella, right? Gabrielle Perez, Development Services Director. From UCI, Goran Matijesevic, Senior Assistant Vice Chancellor, UCI. Always here, there you are. Goran, always here at every one of our events, thank you. Dr. Kevin Bradford, Associate Dean, UCI Paul Mirage School of Business. Ed Carlson, Director of the Center of Real Estate from UCI Paul Mirage School of Business. From Chapman University, Dr. Cynthia West, Director of the Leatherby Center of Entrepreneurship. From Cal State Fullerton, Fram Vergi. Where are you, Fram? Fram now retired, right? And his wife, Julie. I'm sorry, Julie. It's good? It's working out? All right, but Fram, I'm glad you're here. Great work over quite a long period of time over at the university, and just spectacular impact that you had. From our lead sponsor, Susanna Choi, representing City of Hope, Orange County. Hey there. And we also have some incredible students here from Chapman, Cal State Fullerton, and UCI. Thank you to some, yes. And thank you to the press that are here today, Emily Santiago Molina and Caitlin Aquino from OC Business Journal, Brock Keeling from the OC Register, Sylvia, I hope I get this right, Eicher from Paratodos, and Ann Nguyen from KMD Show. Ann, thank you. Where are you? You're in the back with the hat. Thank you. All right, Emil.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see so many friends, colleagues, and new faces who have joined us. My name is Emil Aaron. I'm Senior Vice President and Head of Community Impact here at Genesis Bank. I also am the President of our Genesis for Good Foundation. And I have the distinct pleasure of leading our company-wide efforts to help empower entrepreneurs and deliver positive community impact. And we cannot do this work without the community. So I'd like to just start off by thanking our community partners who are here with us today, starting with the OC Hispanic Chamber, OC Black Chamber, the Filipino American Chamber, the Vietnamese American Chamber, the Latino Restaurant Association, the Latino Food Industry Association, and the Small Business Diversity Network. I believe it's important to live and lead with intention, and we are gathered in this vibrant courtyard, not just as individuals representing various industries, but as a community of influencers, local government leaders, business leaders, education leaders, and of course my frontline community leaders, all committed to fostering an environment where small businesses and diverse entrepreneurs thrive. We were very intentional in inviting you here today because we know that you share our passion for community transformation and economic development. We believe that you understand that when we work together and take collective action to empower small businesses, we unleash the untapped potential of diverse entrepreneurs, and it creates a transformative environment that positively impacts the quality of life here in the region. Our goal at Genesis Bank is to work with each of you to explore dynamic ways in which we can partner with the Genesis Bank Institute for Entrepreneurship and the Genesis for Good Foundation to elevate the entrepreneurs and accelerate the growth and help our small businesses flourish, create meaningful jobs, and make a tangible difference in the lives of people here in our communities. As we engage in what I am sure will be a lively discussion today, I encourage each of you to think broadly and creatively. How can each of our unique positions be leveraged to better support small businesses and entrepreneurship here in Orange County? How can we move beyond words and public gestures of support to actually take concrete, tangible action to build more sustainable partnerships that evolve continuously to meet the ever-changing needs of our diverse business communities? I'm excited to join Stephen in helping to moderate today's conversation with our amazing lineup of visionary leaders. And before we get started, I'd like to turn it back over to Stephen for an exciting special announcement.
All right, so we'll make this go quickly and very importantly, all right, we're delighted to welcome some esteemed guests from our longstanding partner, Fiserv, Neil Wilcox, EVP and Head of Corporate Social Responsibility, and Nicole Valentin-Smith, Vice President, Strategic Client Engagement. Our decades-long loyal relationship with Fiserv, the world's largest banking service provider, is a source of pride for us. For those unfamiliar, Fiserv is a Fortune 500 company with a market cap of $90 billion. It stands as the foremost provider of payment and financial services technology, offering a comprehensive array of solutions for banks and other financial solutions, businesses, and merchants. These solutions encompass payment and mobile banking systems, account processing, electronic payment products, financial and business solutions, and card issuer processing, among others. A few months ago, we announced our collaboration with Fiserv to offer businesses located primarily in low and moderate income communities access to Fiserv's Clover point-of-sale technology with zero entry costs and significantly discounted subscription fees. The Clover point-of-sale and business management system from Fiserv enables small and mid-sized businesses to accept payments and run their business while also offering capabilities to enhance customer experience and streamline operations. Genesis Bank and Fiserv share a commitment to empowering small businesses and breaking down barriers, and today marks another milestone in our impactful partnership. Thanks to a generous donation, a grant from Fiserv to the Genesis for Good Foundation, we're thrilled to announce the launch of the Genesis for Good Catalyst Empowerment Grant Program, a transformative new program designed to support local businesses. This innovative grant program, developed in collaboration with Fiserv, underscores our joint commitment to fostering inclusive and vibrant communities. It serves as a prime example of how we can come together and align resources to drive positive community impact and advance opportunities. The program will award grants up to $10,000 each to eligible small businesses, membership in Genesis Catalyst program, and access to the Genesis and Clover bundle point-of-sale technology with zero entry costs and significantly discounted subscription fees. Visit our Genesis booth, I guess right there, our Genesis booth, to learn more about the program. And Neil, will you please make a few remarks?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is on behalf of our chairman, president, and CEO, Frank Bisignano, and my peers on our management committee, it is an honor to be here. It is an honor to work with partners like Genesis Bank. You heard Stephen and Anil say how important it is to empower small businesses and how to empower entrepreneurship, and we believe that as well. And it is really a privilege and an honor to participate in the launch of the Empowerment Grant Program. We look forward to partnering with Genesis on this and maybe other things that we can do together to promote entrepreneurship in Southern California. The one thing I will say is that, you know, you think about, and I think Anil asked this question, think about what you all can do. This is the launch. I believe in that old proverb that, you know, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So we've got Fiserv, we're in. I would ask all of you to think about what you might be able to do to join us. the possibilities of having a fund where we could really, really do something substantial and significant to promote small businesses, to promote economic empowerment, is just incredibly powerful. So I'll leave you with that. And again, my thanks to all of you for attending today. Thanks to Stephen and the Genesis leadership team for all that they do. We appreciate their business and their partnership each and every day. And this is, I think, the beginning of something very, very special. So thank you very much for your time.
So finally, it's my privilege to introduce each of our esteemed panelists who are here with us this afternoon. From the lab, the camp, and the Anaheim Packing District, we're thrilled to welcome Shaheen and Sebastian Sadecki. From Northgate Markets and the new incredible Mercado González. Has everybody gone to Mercado González? All right. If you haven't, you got to go. This thing is unbelievable. I mean, I feel the same way about the lab, the camp, and right. But all right. And, all right, and we welcome Joshua Gonzalez. Thank you, Josh. From the 4th Street Market in downtown Santa Ana Revitalization, I'm honored to welcome my friends Irv and Ryan Chase. From the forthcoming OCVIBE, we've all been hearing about the OCVIBE. It's a big deal. We welcome CEO Bill Fultz. And I love this man. From Little Saigon, we have the iconic businessman and OC Hall of Fame inductee recently, Frank Zhao, with us today. Truly an honor to have you here, Frank. And of course, my co-moderator today, Emil Aaron, Genesis Bank's head of community impact. So, all of that introduction. All right, let's start digging in. So we want to start out by going back to the beginning. No pun intended. What's your genesis? How did you become the person you are today? What is the driver motivation behind the what you do and how you do it? And please share, a bit about your professional journey and how you became who you are today. Who wants to jump in?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is really an amazing deal. Stephen, thank you for having us. My background started in the action sports industry. I was president of Quicksilver here locally in Orange County, and prior to that, I was with Gotcha Sportswear, and prior to that, I was with Jansen Sportswear. I think the interest in my business started in the fact that these would be small Southern California businesses that we would develop on an international basis, and in some cases we went public with them. And I recognized that the bigger we got, the less cool we were. So, but I did recognize that so much of the innovation and the passion and the excitement came from smaller companies in America. I grew up in Michigan, and I watched a lot of this in the Midwest. And so therefore, I recognized that for a lot of the smaller operators, there really was no platform, because a lot of the smaller operators, retailers, they don't want to be in a traditional mall, or in the case of Orange County, they didn't want to be in a strip center next to a 7-Eleven and a dog grooming shop, So we decided to start our company. It's called The Lab. It stands for Little American Businesses. And that was 31 years ago. And today, 31 years later, I have my kids that are joined the firm. I honestly still believe in that all innovation, all excitement, and the risk is taken by the small businesses. And hopefully, when you get a chance to taste some of our food, you get to meet our wonderful tenants. Every single one of them is a self-starter, self-entrepreneur. And so we have put hundreds and hundreds of tenants together over the last 30-something years.
Well, thank you for having me here today. It's an honor. Our story is one of immigrants. Our grandfather, Miguel González Jiménez, came from Jalisco, from a small town called Jalostotitlan, close to Guadalajara. in the 60s as an immigrant because he was a shoemaker in our hometown and his shoe shop burnt down. So when it burnt down, he had to come to America to try to pay off the debt. His plan was to go back to Mexico and start another shoe shop. That didn't happen. In 1980, the family opened a small 2,000 square foot store in Anaheim, California on Anaheim Boulevard, and all started working there together, the 13 brothers and sisters. And today we're in our third generation. We are 53. My cousin Yvette is here today as well. And 32 of us work in the family business. We're very passionate about our community. We're very passionate about our business, about sharing the best of Mexico and being able to serve with great value with our products and services. Thank you.
I am probably the least entrepreneurial person up on this stage you're going to see today. Although I remember taking a class in 1984 when I first started working on entrepreneurism, and I heard that there was always the idea guy in entrepreneurial ventures, and there was the execution guy in entrepreneurial ventures. I'm more the execution guy. So for whatever reason, my career, I have spent, I've worked for 6 founder entrepreneurs, 3 of which were billionaires. I currently work for Henry and Susan Samueli, who are the backers of OCVIBE. So I saved the best for last, not that the other ones weren't fabulous as well, but I spent most of my career, probably most from a marquee standpoint, starting in the sports business. I was the CFO for the Los Angeles Dodgers back when the O'Malley family owned them in the 1990s. Spent some time in private equity, learning the investment world with one of those billionaires, and eventually worked my way back into sports with the Ducks, the Honda Center with Henry and Susan, 2 of the most charitable, philanthropic folks you're going to meet. Absolutely everything is billed as you've heard about them. They're fabulous people. So a difficult career path for me to explain. I don't really know why I started working with all these founder entrepreneurs, but they all needed some help throughout the course of the business. So if you're a young entrepreneur out there, I'd say if you got great ideas, find somebody who can also help you execute with those, because the 2 have to come together. So.
Take your pick.
Want to go? Okay. Hi, I'm Ryan Chase. Thanks for having us here. This is my father, Irv. We're in the commercial real estate business. I'm the 4th generation to be in the family business. Kind of a funny story how we ended up in Santa Ana, or downtown Santa Ana. My great-grandfather immigrated from Russia because of religious persecution in the early 1900s. Got to America and basically wanted to get to the sun. My grandfather was born in Detroit. At 9 months old, wanted to get to hotter weather. So it was Florida or California. Got on the train in Chicago, decided to go to California, got to Los Angeles, and they said, where's their growth? And they said, go south. Well, they got on the train and went south, got off in Anaheim. My great-grandfather was a shoemaker at the time, and there was a shoe store in Anaheim. So he got back on the train. This is a true story, and the shoes. Got back on the train, got off in Santa Ana, and there was no shoe store. So sure enough, we opened up Eureka Shoes in 1919. And
Competition.
Yeah, right. And that was it's actually across the street from their former store. But that was the start of kind of our growth in Santa Ana. And my grandfather kind of ran businesses and started an Army surplus business in the downtown, which he grew into a 31-store chain called the Wild West Stores, which he settled to General Mills in 1981. My grandfather then redeveloped downtown Santa Ana, which was then called Fiesta Marketplace in the mid-1980s. And then I took over and redeveloped it again in the mid-2000s into the East End, and from there developed 4th Street Market and reopened the Yost Theater and did a bunch of those things. So that's where we're at today.
There's not much I can add to that. Thank you.
Frank, your story is fascinating.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today representing the Vietnamese community in Orange County. The Vietnamese in Orange County started in 1976, all from the 1975 group of immigrants that was brought into Camp Pendleton in Oceanside and got us here in Orange County, works here, but it's all started because we works here, we live here, but we went to LA for ethnic food, for Asian food. So that didn't make sense. So I went up to a grocery store in Chinatown, which is operated by a Vietnamese, and I urged him that he should go to where the client is, not having the client come to him. So he agreed, and then I bumped into another person who wanted to open a pharmacy. So the three of us beginning to start our first tree business in Orange County on Bosa, Westminster. And we started with tree business in 1976. Today, we're well over 10,000 small business. Little Saigon consistently operate by family and small business. And they all started for the survivability because we all moved here and we didn't have anything to start, and we didn't know what to start and how to start. So by gathering in one place, give us a little more confidence that we might be able to survive. And that's how everything started. And I played the role of a community developer that brings everybody together and grow the Vietnamese community to where it is today. The first generation doing all right, but didn't do very good. But we're so so we're so thankful the second generation have done a wonderful job. They have the opportunity to go to school here, to study here, and they're able to learn and speak English correctly, not the way I do. So that's where it grows today. Today, from what I understand, there are more than 40,000 Vietnamese Americans living in Orange County. However, the Little Saigon is serving daily a shopper from Santa Barbara to San Diego. So Little Saigon is in Westminster. However, we serve a much wider range of service to the Asian in the regions.
See, you left some interesting parts out of the story. I mean, how did you had a minute decision to either stay in Vietnam or come here?
I was on the second last U.S. Air Force C-130 left Vietnam in Tân Sơn Nhất Airport, and I didn't know that that was the opportunity until probably 3 hours before I was told to come to the airport and then being picked up by a friend of mine that I used to work with and work for in the U.S. Embassy. So I was so fortunate to be able to leave the country at the very last minute. Otherwise, with my association in the past with various U.S. organizations, I would not have been considered as being safe.
What was your first job when you came to America?
Well, I was very lucky because I didn't have much language barrier. So my first job was less than 10 hours after arrival. I went to a donut shop, buy a cup of coffee, buy a donuts, and then pick up a newspaper and beginning to call. So they said they need salesmen that don't need training, that don't need any experience, and don't need to know anything. That perfectly fit my profile. So I called, and then within 30 minutes, I was given the job. The owner come pick me up, and I beginning to get a full orientation of the job, and I go to work the next day. As a vacuum salesman, door to door.
I think this is the greatest American dream story. and if you go out to Balsa, you drive around Westminster, and you see the Asian Garden Mall, and you see all the businesses and the commercial strip centers, etc. This is Frank Giao.
Awesome. So, really appreciate those stories. It's a great setup for, you know, those of you that have run these businesses and had these long careers. What lessons, what values did you learn over your life that have helped shape how you approach business and how you approach the community? And I'd love to kind of throw that out to you, Frank, and Shaheen. You talked about some of the lessons you learned, but I'd love to kind of pose that out to you guys.
So was question for me?
Yep. And anyone, feel free. Anyone can chime in.
How did I start?
What lessons have you learned over your career?
I've learned a lot of lessons, by the way. The first lesson is we have to find a way to understand the community and work with the sentiment of the community to start. So saying all that, it means when we start, the local resident file a petition not to issue any business license to a Vietnamese name. So that tells me we didn't do our job or didn't have a chance to do so in convincing that we're here to work, we're not here to be on welfare, we're not here to bankrupt the government or create criminal activity. And it takes a while until we were able to convince that yes, we were here as a worker, and we did. The second lesson I learned, would be to be able to visit the local government and convince them of the same. And we didn't do that. That's why the local government was also against us. So it's a hard beginning, but it was a very good lesson that we were able to deal with it and to live with it and become a part of it. And we're thankful that we were taken in very, very open-mindedly by the community at the end.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else?
I want to be like Frank when I grow up. I think for me, my background is Persian. My family moved here in 1965 to get their doctorates in Michigan. And so I grew up in the Midwest, you know, where mass manufacturing took place, particularly in the 80s. And very quickly, after World War II, most of you know, the rest of the world was destroyed. Japan was destroyed. Asia was not doing very good. Russia was destroyed. Europe was destroyed. And to survive, you had to buy your goods and services from America. And through this process, we became sort of the manufacturing base of the planet. And through that process, our lifestyles and our consumption became very mechanical, and homogenization sort of happened. I jokingly say that, you know, canned food was, this is actually a true story, was designed by Napoleon for the soldiers, and then when we got hold of this stuff, you know, everything got into a can, you know, because we were so busy building our middle class. And punching 60 years later, I think I find it very exciting that today, for us, our organization and our community is all about what we call localization, personalization, customization, and not homogenization. I think there's a next generation of consumers out there that are not the fast food nation, if we just look at it from the food industry. And so therefore, we look at it as opportunity of local community. So all of our tenants are local. And we think that, example, it's Orange County, there's 34 cities in the county. Every one of these cities has some sort of a culture. And it just takes a little bit of archaeology, quite honestly, just to find that culture and tap into it and really celebrate the local community. And I think the diversification of this group, I think, is a perfect example of that. So for us, we have this sort of motto that we use for our company. We call it community, culture, commerce, and consciousness, the 4 C's. So every project we do has to have those 4 elements, and that's where our focus has been. Sebastian, you want to add that?
Yeah. So I'm 2 years into the business now, working for the family. The first thing I learned is don't schedule meetings before 9 a.m. No one likes that. Cut that out. And the second thing is really long-term thinking, kind of like my dad was saying, I call it the 90% rule. And we like to live and operate our business at 90% efficiency. And the idea there is that that final 10% of efficiency is that last pounding the nickel on the deal. It's that last, 4, 5, 10 units you want to get in that project. And you just burn out. And our business is really built long-term. We've never sold a project in the history of our company. I look forward to stewarding that forward. I'm the 2nd generation. My brother's just joining the business, and we really think in decades, and that helps us not only with our projects and being thoughtful about how we design them and orient them for the communities at large, but also how we deal with our tenants. They're all about long-term relationships.
I was just going to add also, I think, to both your points, and kind of equal on those lines, is patience and perseverance. Because I think when you're doing community development, it's not a slow process. It's not a quick process. It takes forever, and it takes patience. It takes perseverance. You're going to have a lot of pushback. I think especially today, for any of us that have done projects recently, it's not easy. I almost joke now, if there's not pushback, you're not pushing the envelope enough, frankly, because no matter what you do, people aren't going to like it. They're going to have issues. They're going to have questions. I think to Frank's point, educating the community, doing your research, doing your due diligence, trying to kind of get in the weeds with them and kind of have them feel a part of it, I think is really integral to getting their support and their buy-in and making it a success long term. And to your point, Sebastian, as well, we also look long term, and I think as a family business and as a family operator, we can do things that others can't. We're not a big corporation. We're not we don't have to appease the banks or partners or whatever else. We can do what we think is right for the project long term and best for the project long term. And again, I think a lot of other developers and businesses and corporations don't take those steps and are doing things maybe for the final 10%, for that extra buck, that extra unit, and ultimately that doesn't always work best for the project. So,
and I'd just like to add that 3 things. 1, it's all about people. It's all about dealing with people. 2, honesty and integrity in all of your dealings. And I think if you do that, if you treat people fairly and with honesty and integrity, it's made for success. And I've taught that to all the people that work in our company, that the most important thing is our tenants and honesty and integrity. And if we have to take a hit, we take a hit. And it's served us well for the last almost 100 years. So we've done pretty well.
I would just add really 2 things. I think the first is the importance of thinking long term, like you all mentioned, and the second is just financial discipline, both personally and for the business. And I think there's difficult times that every business goes through, and when you haven't really built in a discipline long term, it becomes difficult to face those challenges many times. And for our family, that discipline, both personally and in our business, has allowed us to think about different opportunities, has also allowed us to weather challenges, and ultimately has allowed us to create a culture in our family and business around long-term thinking.
I guess a little bit along what you were saying, Irv, I'd go on and say one of the things I've learned that's been very valuable in trying to launch this project is complete transparency. And we try and have transparency with all of our employees. I do quarterly. We have about 400 full-time employees and over 2,000 part-time employees. And I do quarterly town halls with all of them that want to attend. We record them so everybody can see it, so everybody knows what we're doing. And then on the development side, we extend that into the development world too. And we were blessed to be in the city of Anaheim that was very conducive to doing a project like we're doing. And but we chose to be completely transparent, very upfront, offered everything we could offer right up front. And that transparency actually finally led us to get a 7-0 vote from the city council, and a city council that that you couldn't, yeah. Like many, couldn't find their way out of the city council without a 4-3 vote. So transparency and being honest and integrity is incredibly important.
So, so I had, as a child, I had parents who always set an example of giving back to community and making a difference in community. And then, as a young investment banker, I was surrounded by that as always being part of the culture of the firm. We couldn't just make money. We had to really give back, and it had to be, it had to be very authentic. It had to be very soulful, and then, religion, fits into there somewhere, in terms of how that's impacted me about giving back to community. And then I feel like I've been like the luckiest person in my career, and it's put me in a position to be able to give back into community, and to do that, my wife and I, our family, our kids, and then what better platform would be able to do that with than a bank? So what drives your commitment and mission? Every one of you is doing something that is committed to community that would not survive without community support for what you're doing. So what has driven each one of you?
I'll jump in, because actually our company culture comes straight from Henry and Susan Samueli, as you know them very well, yep. Stephen, and their faith drives a lot of their philosophy as far as philanthropy is concerned. They just announced a little while ago, they'd given away $1 billion in the first 20 years. Henry had the benefit of actually becoming a very wealthy, successful entrepreneur in his 40s. Very unusual to become an entrepreneur, makes it that late in life. And so at their core is giving back. And so they gave $1 billion away in their first 20 years, and they just announced they're going to give another $1 billion away in the next 10. And that is core to what we're doing every single day, and even in the way we structure our businesses in different ways. We certainly support a lot of things around Orange County, but for example, in our market hall that we're building, which is 21 stalls of different, hopefully young entrepreneurial chefs, we're supplying all of the cooking equipment, all the space, pretty much everything. It's a just add water approach to try and enable young folks of all different varieties, and we'll try and get every ethnicity that, if it's possible to get every ethnicity that's represented in Orange County as one of the most diverse areas in Southern California. But we'll be supplying all of the capital essentially for them to get started. Right. So that we can get that person right off of maybe a food truck, maybe one storefront, something like that, into their next step. And then ultimately, we'd hope that they can blossom into successful restaurateur, et cetera. So I think there's different ways of expressing your commitment to the community. And this is just one small way that we've tried to weave it into our business model for this.
So I think community is really at the core of what our business is. We don't really think of ourselves as a real estate organization, but we're really a community organization. And what I mean by that is each one of our projects we look at as a small community, and then we also invest in clusters. So for the most part, our projects are usually within walking distance, if not adjacent to our other projects, and we live with them. And we live with them in the sense that we walk our projects almost weekly. We also curate our own F&B offerings, and we're a little bit unique in that we have our own bars, we have our own restaurants that are tenants within our projects, so we eat our own cooking, so to speak. And going back to kind of the roots of our organization, Lab, Little American Business, the impetus and for this company growing as it has is really trusting and making big bets on small entrepreneurs. It's the Frank Jow approach, no experience needed, just a passion for whatever you're doing, and we'll believe in you. And much like some of the other panelists mentioned, having the right capital structure, long-term view, it affords us to take those risks. And those risks, they don't pay off short-term, but they certainly do long-term. I think we have dozens of stories of really incredible entrepreneurs that have grown with us. Lab stands for Little American Business, but it can also stand for Large American Business. So we love to see those companies grow as well.
And Shaheen, just before you go, I want to acknowledge, the streamlined aspect of Genesis. In that right here, we've got the president and chief operating officer of the company saving our lives, Jenny Simmons. Thank you, Jenny, for saving all of us and keeping us safe. All right, sorry, go on.
Thank you, Jenny. Well, I just wanted to add to what Sebastian just said. So one of our vendors, I just want to use them as an example here, is George's, and they have a little booth in the back. I still get emotional every time I see these folks. Walked into my office. I don't want to be rude and tell you how old she is, but she's older than I. And she walked in my office and she goes, "Hey, I want to open a restaurant." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Have you had a restaurant?" She says, "No." I said, "Have you ever worked in a restaurant?" She says, "No." And I said, "So what makes you want to open a restaurant?" She goes, my husband passed away, and he was the best Southern food chef that I knew. And to celebrate his life, I want to open a restaurant. 10 minutes into that conversation, I'm like, I'm going to do this deal, because it's just emotionally, like, this is just, I had to do the deal. And so they came and opened their first restaurant with us at the Packing House, George's, and she brought her family, her daughter, son-in-law. They are now, I believe, on their third restaurant. They are our highest grossing restaurant at the Packing House. Perfect example of just giving people that have passion opportunity, and I have about 100 stories like that, but George's is my favorite, which is in the back, so try their food.
Whoa.
And I would just piggyback what both of them said about, I think, you could obviously give money to charities and nonprofits and be involved and support, and that's all great. But I think for us, being in the real estate business, we can help incubate concepts, incubate small businesses, and really give them a chance to not only grow but thrive. And one of my greatest, I guess, passions or prize points is when to see these businesses succeed. I think, Sheen, to your point, like someone comes in with this crazy idea, and you're like, we're really going to do this? And we've had these conversations. My dad and I were like, we're really going to back these guys, and they have no financial backing. They have no experience. I mean, they're Frank off the boat, basically, but they have passion. And I think ultimately...
No, the C-130.
Yeah, the C-130, sorry. But, the reality is you can't create passion. You can't. That's something that is deep down and that I think is so hard to find. And if you can find the right people that really believe in what they're doing and want to make an impact, we believe in backing those people. And I think, like you've seen successes with those, we have too. Are there failures? Sure. But I think for us, we can sleep at night knowing that we're backing, that we believe people that are going to ultimately succeed. And, you throw darts and hopefully enough of them hit. And we've been, fortunate enough to have a lot of them hit. So we believe in the same mindset.
Awesome.
Can I just add one thing real quick? I think every one of us learned something new during COVID. And I know when I started my business 31 years ago, the key question from the real estate world was, how do you, how do you finance this stuff? And you don't have any credited tenants. And I always said, I don't want credited tenants.
Well, the opposite.
Yeah, and I want the opposite, exactly. And so I think when COVID happened, every single one of our tenants survived. We lost 2 tenants because their lease came up and they decided they didn't want to be in the restaurant business because they thought nobody's going to go eat out anymore. But every one of the small tenants we had showed up and said, here's $50, we made some money today. And we have one very large tenant that I did the deal 30 years ago. That's the only tenant that just stopped paying rent. And they're a national public company.
Our only publicly traded tenant.
Right.
I want to dovetail that by saying servicing the community is not only limited to servicing their need, facilitating their need in the business, but we done beyond that. For instance, at the early day, we help tenants who establish business have no capital, no credit, so they can't do anything. So one of the way we will creatively do was to give them a space and then go to the wholesaler and guarantee a certain line limit of credit to the wholesaler to extend to the merchant. And we would be taking that risk if the merchant failed. And it's not a big risk, a very small risk. We were able to build several small businesses and family into business, not only growing over the year, but they also become landlord. Number two, that we focus on servicing the business is to look into the long-term education need of the family. So over the years, I have been working with local educational institutions, such as Coastline, such as UCI particularly, Chapman, Cal State Fullerton, in seeking their advice and bring education to the business, but not only to the business, but also to the children of the business over the years. And we found that is very important. That's how our second generation was able to do far better than ourselves.
Our passion is in education. That's the core pillar. And we understand that when somebody becomes a first generation student in college, not only does it change their lives, but it changes the lives of their entire family and everyone they know. It changes the trajectory of their future, and then they give back and they help others in the community, which is an amazing and a circular process. So that's what we focus our resources on in terms of giving in our communities.
So we have a number of you who are a part of multi-generational family businesses. And so we need honesty here, right? We all agreed to honesty. So this one is for those of you that are part of family businesses. I'd love to hear, how did you end up working in the family business? And what's it like to work with family? And what are some of the challenges of working with family, but what are some of the great things about working with family? I mean, you mentioned 30 plus family members at Northgate, and would love to hear about what that's like. Ryan, you're taking over from fourth generation. Would love to hear about that. Sebastian, you're taking over. So would love to hear from those of you, what are some of the challenges and what are some of the great things about working in the family business?
Everything's amazing, can't complain. On to the next.
Well,
Clothes are looking good.
Yeah. I mean, I would say my only one benefit compared to Josh is I have one sister and no one else to answer to, so I can't imagine the 33 other relatives to deal with. I grew up drawing shopping centers with my grandfather when I was 4 or 5 years old, so I grew up in the real estate business. I was on the family's construction truck from 7th grade every summer through college, kind of learning the business, and really never thought doing anything else, frankly. My family encouraged me to do else or to look otherwise, but I fell in love with the real estate business, and I fell in love with downtown Santa Ana, and just kind of a perfect fit for me. In terms of relationships, I will tell you that my father and I butted heads a lot, I would say, in high school and college.
What was that about?
Oh, no comment.
No, let's get into it.
No, I mean, all I can say is we get along really great now.
That was a big gap.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that the only challenge, or I guess few challenges, one is it's hard to separate personal and business sometimes when we can be at a family dinner and we're talking shop, and my wife will always say, like, you got to kind of separate the two, and it's kind of hard when it's part of who I am and part of kind of who I grew up as. But I think also just in the big picture as a family business, again, as I alluded to earlier, we don't have shareholders, we don't have partners. I mean, we do, but for the most part, we control our own stuff. I don't have to answer to people. We can make a decision in 30 seconds. We have an operator that comes in and wants to do a deal. We see a deal that comes in. We talk. We're not calling the bank for approval. We're not calling our board of directors. We're talking, and a minute later we have a decision. So I guess in some ways that's good, and maybe in other ways that's not so good. But for our family, it's worked well, and I just hope that my daughter and my son ultimately join the business with me, and that's all I can pray for and ask for. So
that's great, and in all seriousness, I echo that. you know, there are great moments in a family business. I'm second generation. My mom's a developer as well. My youngest brother's joining, and perhaps my middle brother at some point in the future. And what's great about a family business is that I came from an institutional background, working in real estate private equity. My dad was a fashion designer by trade. My mom was a fashion designer by trade. So we have a lot of diverse personalities. And what's really valuable in a family business is that we can just have candid conversations. I know who you are. I know your story. I know that this is not your brightest idea, or this is a great idea. So, and I mean that with sincerity, because when you're in a corporate environment, even at the highest levels, there's an aura of politicking that goes on. And I think with a family business, it's not always pretty, but you get the truth out, and that over the long term results in good results. So I think that to me is one of the best parts about working in the family business, and again, echoing what Ryan mentioned, hoping to continue it and steward it. The only advice I got, and to keep it PG, I'll substitute one of the words: don't mess it up. Other than that,
I know that
should all be good.
I know that one.
But the third generation is the one that's supposed to screw it up. So you're actually
Yeah, there you go.
For us, we rely a lot on the legacy of our grandmother. We had, many years where our family was separated by the border, our grandfather being in the U.S. and our grandmother in Mexico, and already 13 children. My grandmother back in Mexico with 10 of those children, while my grandfather was here with the 3, and then eventually started bringing them over. So her life's purpose, once we were united again as a family in the U.S., was to keep a united family. And we were always reminded of that, both with our faith in God and our faith in each other, and knowing that we're better together than we are separate. And that drives us as a business, and our purpose is really to continue to develop the legacy, to impact in a positive way. And I think, with the difficulties of business, they're there, but many times, if there's not a commitment from the prior generation, it's different. But in our case, our second generation, our parents have an amazing commitment and provide resources and access and time to our development and helping us, be good stewards of this business. So for that, we're very grateful.
So I think it's interesting, like there are 2 of you, there are 2 of you, so there's nowhere to hide, right? Right. There's 35 of you, right? Does everyone work as hard as the other one? And
This is it's a space of honesty here, Josh.
I have my cousin holding me accountable over there, so.
No, I've always
Boy,
wondered,
is it hot out here.
my daughters want nothing to do with the finance world. Well, they like to benefit from it, but no, they do. But they don't want to come into businesses that I've built or build. You're all in the business. There's 35 of you in the business, and there's got to be different levels of highly achieving, right? And there's got to be different dynamics within when it's 35 people in the family. Does that always go smoothly?
Well, I think communication is very important, and we have a very strong governance in our family, and a ton of communication around what that governance is and how it works and how merit works and how the organization moves forward. Because when you have both outside, call it exterior and internal leadership, homegrown, and that you bring from the outside, I mean, you have a responsibility, right, to the business and to the organization, the team members and the customer to do what's right. So I think the communication, the governance, and communicating, what we're trying to achieve is very important in the decision-making process.
Do you guys all have the same governance?
That's the governance.
Yeah, the government's on the back of a napkin. Yeah.
All right, so Bill, in 2020, and we've touched on some of this, but I want to go deeper with it. Susan and Henry announced their vision to create OCVIBE Project, an immersive sports and entertainment district, which also includes office, housing, culinary experiences. And I think you're doing a culinary institute as part of it?
The market hall I mentioned before,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
And in Anaheim, surrounding the HANA Center, home of their NHL Anaheim Ducks. Your project is nestled between Disneyland Resort to the west, Angel Stadium to the south. It's been described as a quote-unquote game changer for Orange County. So where does OCVIBE fit within the landscape of Orange County, and what are the different components of the project? How do you collaborate with some of your neighboring destinations? And then go further. Just last week in the Orange County Business Journal, there was an article about slight revision to the development plans to add more housing, reduce the amount of commercial office. So where are you going with all of it?
Where are you going? Because that was like 6 questions in there, I think. So
take your pick. No, I mean, it's an amazing development,
Yeah.
and it's and you've got significant things all around you and part of it.
And again, I think it starts with the pride in the community that the family has, because this is not just a pure investment. Well, Henry is not doing this to lose money, I can promise you like that. He looks at it as a legacy, and our vision is to try and create a downtown for Orange County. Orange County has wonderful cities all over, wonderful town centers, Santa Ana, et cetera, where you guys are, Little Saigon, and we don't take anything away from that, but when maybe there's a New Year's Eve celebration, where do you want to bring the whole community together? And so our vision is to really appeal to that curious class on wanting to see something different every time they come there. And more importantly, just be a place where all of us in Orange County can gather together and have a great time. So that's our core. That's our vision of what we're doing. And part of that includes a diversity of offerings. We're also, I think you didn't mention, we're building a new 5,600 person performance venue. That'll be a very interesting one, nothing like it on the West Coast, where it's not seated like you might get at Sagerstrom or the theater up at LA Live. It's a flat floor, so that Ryan's kids don't want to go sit in a seat and go to a concert. They want to have a gigantic mosh pit and have a great time. So this will just be something very different. So we're trying to find the distinctiveness in everything we do, but always with a focus on entertainment, on food, and on lifestyle. So to your 5th question, I think.
Somewhere in there.
We are making a small change, and it is coming out of the pandemic. Office space is such in flux. I don't have to tell you guys in the banking business. We have existing 360,000 square feet of office space that we already have. Thought we would leave that. We're actually contemplating taking that down and building additional residential in that place, because it's just not it's kind of B class real estate. The office building that we are building, I'll add though, is again indicative of the family's values. We're doing it very sustainably. It's mass timber construction, which means it's eliminating a lot of steel, it's eliminating a lot of concrete. We're putting solar panels on top of all the parking garages, so that'll be 6.5 megawatts of solar production that we do out of those panels. Be the largest solar production in any urban setting in California. And so those things, so we're kind of, again, trying to look for that distinctive thing that will separate us from everybody else. But that office building, you look around here, there's not a single window that will open there. So our office building, everybody will have operable windows, so you can open up and enjoy this breeze that's trying to take our tent away. But that's the vision. The vision is to really be the downtown of Orange County, so that there is a place when the Ducks win the Stanley Cup. Eventually, it'll happen.
Again.
Thank you for your patience over those of you who are Ducks fans for the last 5 years in this rebuilding. But when we do celebrate that Stanley Cup, then there is some place for everybody to come and gather and celebrate as one community in Orange County.
Awesome. So this one, I'm going to tee this up for you, Josh. So by all accounts, Mercado González has just been an incredible success since its launch. What was the vision for launching this new concept, and are there plans to stand up more of these?
Shaheen had been telling us this for a while, right? You had told my uncle, and you'd said you have to do a place that is really representative of Mexico. And during the pandemic, we had a session, and as a family, as a team, and we started thinking about what's the future of our organization, and what do we want to be, right? We've been in business for 40 plus years. You know, the customer is changing. You have multi-generational, you know, customers. You have different customer segments, and what do we want to be? As we went through these sessions, we landed on authentic Mexican food experiences. Not Latino, not Hispanic, but authentic Mexican food experiences. And why did we do that? One, it's what we have a passion for. Two, it's what we understand best. Three, it's what's growing the most in the country, right? And we believe that we can do it better than anyone else. So as we started thinking about, you know, how do we transform the organization, we had to, you know, pick an accelerator where we could have the organization work in one place to understand what we were trying to achieve. And Costa Mesa and the site on Harbor and Wilson really, you know, was the site that could make that happen for us because of the diverse community, the customer base, the proximity to both, you know, the communities we now serve and the coast. For 2 years, we worked on, you know, what will 3 customer segments, being the immigrant, you know, Mexican Hispanic, acculturated Mexican Hispanics, and non-Hispanic food explorers, what will they all enjoy, and how do we create a place that's democratic in nature, that's really fun for all, that everybody can have access to, is not elitist, and at the same time can bring the best of Mexican regionality to Orange County. And that was the vision behind Mercado González. As we worked on the vision, we decided on what categories of food we wanted to do, which regions we wanted to represent, what art we wanted to showcase, you know, what operators and entrepreneurs we wanted to bring into the space. And it's been an amazing journey, very well received. We're learning a lot. We're very excited. Our organization is very excited. And we're just very, you know, we're looking forward to the future and doing Mercado González, one in every key market, right? Los Angeles, San Diego, Inland Empire, and in the future, hopefully other places as well. And then in that community, also, you know, other stores that are about 40,000 square feet and can kind of surround the Mercado González for our community shopping needs as well.
Awesome.
So, how did your destinations drive the popularity of mixed-use developments to have such a major impact on local businesses in the local community?
I mean, I think the key to making a destination is providing unique options. I mean, there's so much, everything's the same now. You go to a shopping center in Irvine and every tenant could be the same anywhere throughout Orange County, throughout really the country at this point. So how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make people want to drive outside their comfort zone or outside their 10-minute, you know, convenient window they normally drive in to come explore your place? And in downtown Santa Ana, we did that through entertainment options, programming, special events, and then, again, destination retailers that you can't find anywhere else. We opened up the Yost Theater, which is an independent music venue, opened up the Frida Cinema, which is an independent film venue, and then just, again, destination tenants that were otherwise maybe in LA or even in other parts of the country. As an example, we have a Stussy store in downtown Santa Ana. It's one of, there are 4 stores in America. Their other locations are Los Angeles, New York City, and Hawaii. So I always joke, if you look at a t-shirt, who's the outlier? It's obviously Santa Ana, but the point being is that that's the one place outside of LA and really in Southern California that you can find that product type, and even the products they're carrying in that store is not carried online, and a lot of it is vintage product that you cannot find anywhere. So again, if you can't find it online, you can't find it other places, you'll come to our destination, and that's how we really try to differentiate ourselves and make us the destination.
I think we have kind of 2 things on that. The first is the word of the generation for us is and. We live in an and society. Everyone is looking for multi-level experiences. So we just did a shoe shop deal, and it was a very, you know, Gen X deal. It was someone who started a shoe business on Instagram during COVID, had been doing millions of dollars a year in shoes over Instagram, opened up his first location, and as soon as he signed the lease, the question was, yeah, I'm going to do shoes, and by the way, I want a liquor license. So it's, and it's true of the consumer as well. After he signed the lease.
Smart.
But it's true of the consumer as well. Everyone is looking for not mixed-use development, I think, is a term of the 20th century, and the 21st century term is just development. You don't just want an apartment, you want an apartment with amenities. You don't just want an office building, you want an office building with amenities. So I think that's a big component of it. My dad's got a great analogy with his iPhone. He doesn't get the next iPhone just because it makes better phone calls, but this one turns on the jacuzzi. So that's a piece of it. The second piece is going back to our roots. It's little American business, and we don't look at things as, okay, here's the target income, here's the 5-mile demos. We look at what is the culture of this community going back 100 years. And Orange County has got a tremendous amount of culture. I think it gets looked over sometimes. So when we see that, and if we're successful in bringing that out, bringing in and putting in business these great local entrepreneurs, I think the project on opening day is already so woven into the community, there's nothing for it to do but to succeed.
Not bad for working here for 24 months. Well, I've got a little different take. I think at least my role is looking into the future, trying to understand where the next generation and what people really want. I have a hard time looking at review mirror and building projects. And so one of my biggest challenges, our biggest challenges, and I know Ryan feels this way, I haven't talked to Gonzalez, but Bill, I don't know, Bill is getting away with a lot of stuff because he's, he's the 5-question man. But it's policy, and I think I'm going to speak for everybody around up here. The fact that we're dealing, as developers, just you understand the timeline. So when we do a project, our latest project is a project we're doing in San Marcos, San Diego County. It's a big project. It's kind of a Burning Man meets retail. It's taken us, and by the way, it's been a wonderful city to work with. Everything went according, took us 5 years just to get our entitlement. And now it's going to take me another 3 years before I can deliver that product to the consumer. It's going to take me a year to do construction drawings, and then it's going to take me 2 years to build. That's if everything goes well. And that's if Gordon lowers the interest rates. He has friends. So when you think about the millions and millions of dollars that go into these projects, and again, we all take risk with smaller operators, and you're building a vision that's delivered 10 years from today. I mean, look at how much the world has changed just in the last 10 years. How about since last week, I think it becomes pretty daunting. And one of our biggest challenge is the fact that most of the rules and the regulations for development were written in the 80s at best, before we even had iPhones. So we're building in these, we're investing in these regulations that were set in place 30, 40 years ago. It's absolutely insane. And of course, there are certain cities, my favorite Mayor Stevens, are you here? I heard his name earlier, but I mean, I think Costa Mesa has been great for us to work. We've developed 16 acres in the area that we're in, because they have this ability to move things forward. But many of these cities are just so strict that it just makes it an impossible task. So, our vision is always bigger than what we can actually build. So it becomes really a frustrating process. The world is changing, and it's changing rapidly. This project that I'm talking about is the Burning Man project that I'm talking about is, again, just as we believed in small operators in the culinary arts, that project went on the packing house is going on its 11th year now. Can you believe it? Thanks to our tenants. And but it took us also 5 years to put it together. So that vision, again, is 15 years old. So, and we've done 49 projects as a company, and we never repeat anything, because again, we're anti-homogenization. And by the time you deliver something, I think the world has changed. The project down in San Marcos, I believe in that micro manufacturing is happening in America. I think it's the next wave of retail. And if those of us who understand retail and grew up in the industry, the middleman is obviously taken out. And I think with the introduction of internet and now AI, of course, a lot of these manufacturers are going directly to the consumer. And so the project has these interesting elements. So most developers don't have line item culture on their balance sheet. This will have culture. Most of our projects, we look at culture. I mean, I think most developers in the past thought of culture as something you used to make yogurt. But it really does make a difference, and there's an intrinsic value. But micro manufacturing, we think it's the next wave, and so that's what we're trying to build, because we are making things again in America. And lots of our young entrepreneur people are making things. We're using our hands again. And that's the category that we're outside of food that we're focused on.
So a number of you have talked about working with the operators and the businesses that are in your respective developments. We'd like to kind of just understand, how do you manage the business operators and the employees at your destinations? Like, what's that dynamic like? And it's open to any of you.
Well, I would just say, I think for us, especially when we're trying to attract these young entrepreneurs, these small business owners, a lot of them with minimal to no experience, you get some interesting results, right? I guess is the point. But that's kind of the fun of it, right? You're not looking for these corporate companies that have these systems in place and they have these regional managers, and you're getting the guy that came up with the idea, that's the guy, the chef, the marketing guy, the janitor. They're all doing everything. And I think that's kind of the fun of it. It's also kind of fun to help mentor a lot of these people and kind of help try to teach them a little bit. And I think on the employee side too, you also, at least from my perspective, and even this is my father as well, kind of opening the mindset of who these entrepreneurs are. When we first met for one of the chefs at the Yost Theater, he had a tattoo on his forehead with a knife. And every time he talked, the knife would move. And my dad looks at me and he's like, this is who we're talking to? And so, I think it's a little different mindset of, kind of the vendor or the clientele or the tenant you're dealing with. And I think also then the mentality from an employee standpoint is, I think, being a little more open-minded to what they might be doing. I always tell my tenants, the crazier outside the box the idea, the better. But sometimes when you suggest that, you get that. And so like one day, one of my tenants just painted a mural on the building without asking, and my manager came to me and goes, we got to paint over that. I said, we're not painting over that. And so you have to kind of have a little bit of a dialogue of like, there's going to be some creative leisure taken on some of these things. Or sometimes a tenant will call and say, I want to do an event. And it's like, okay, cool, let's talk about it. Well, the next day the event's planned. They didn't really give you any heads up, and like now you're having to work with the city and the police and logistics to kind of help cover them and help them. But again, this is kind of the fun, and I guess what you get with these young entrepreneurs and these small business owners is that's the passion you're getting. And with corporate America, that's the alternative. But again, you're not getting the cool factor. You're not getting the same buzz that creates. So I think, again, you got to be prepared for it. It's a little different and unusual, but I think that the benefit is outweighs the negative.
I'd just like to add a little bit to that one of the interesting things about this business is that in 1 minute you're talking to the McDonald's representative about putting a McDonald's location on one of your properties, and next minute you're talking to some guy who's, when you're looking at him, his forehead's moving in bullets or shooting out of a tattoo on his head. And Ryan says, you're staring, after the meeting, Ryan says to me, you were staring at him. I says, how could you not stare at him? The guy's sitting there, and when he moves, the bullet moves. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm going, this is who we're going to lend money to open up a business? It's like, for the older generation and people that are used to the business, which is really the corporate America, that's our business. Our business is really McDonald's and Bank of America and FedEx warehouses and things like that. Your mindset has to change like immediately, and sometimes that's hard to do. So what's good about Ryan and I is that he seems to stays more in the younger world. I stay more in the corporate world, and then we mix and try to discuss them. And changing your mind in that is not that easy. And but we've been able to do it, and thank goodness we trust each other. And I think that's one of the most important factors is that you have to trust people that you're working with. You have to let go, especially for a father that starts a business or continues on a business. It's really hard to let go. and you have to let go and let them run and let them make mistakes, let them be successful, tell them when they've done a good thing, tell them when they've not done a good thing, and you just have to be able to, you have to have this, in Yiddish there's a term called koyach, which means strength. You have to have stomach strength when you're in this business, when you're bouncing back and forth between the entrepreneur in downtown Santa Ana who's working out of his car in effect, and you're his manager, you're his board of directors. It's one time I told Ryan, I said, Ryan, we're going to get ourselves in trouble. We're advising these guys what to do, and the next second we're their landlord. How are we doing that? We're like acting as partners, and then there are our tenants, and it's a really interesting arrangement. But you have to, and when you're dealing in this kind of environment, that's what you have to do. You have to jump from one to the next, and hopefully you have the ability to do that. So,
Irv, I think I heard you say that you looked at Ryan, you said, this is a business where you're going to lend to. So are you actually financing the dream, the vision of these businesses launching?
Yes, we have on multiple occasions. In fact, I'd rather lend to my tenants than my family. The tenants, the tenants pay me back. But yes, we have in many instances where you have these young entrepreneurs that don't have experience, don't have history of borrowing, etc. In fact, Stephen, you might remember this. We walked in downtown Santa Ana one time, and I told you we need a bank down here that lends completely without any lending rules or regulations, meaning that you don't look at a balance sheet, you don't look at the guy's financials. You meet the guy, you size him up, and you go, okay, we're going to loan him money, because none of them have a statement, none of them have typically experience, and we've been very lucky that all of them that we have banked, loaned money to, have paid us back. And
for the most part.
And I'm also remembering when we were standing there just across from the Yost Theater.
Yes.
Right? And,
yes.
And we all met right there, and we were waiting for someone else to join us. And we were all dressed in suits and whatever. And someone from Santa Ana walked by us, and they said, oh, it's the suits. Don't ruin our town.
Yeah. I remember that.
I think the other thing to add, too, is beyond just the financial, loaning money, it's also the guidance and the mentorship, like I mentioned earlier. But as Bill alluded to with the food hall they're building in Anaheim, our food hall, the same thing, is basically built turnkey to our tenants so that it minimizes the barriers to entry, both from a cost standpoint and an operational standpoint. From our experience, we've learned is a lot of these chefs are great chefs. They're not great business people. So if we can take away a lot of the operational wherewithal that they need or that they don't have and help them with that, it can help them, to, I guess, a better chance for success. And then we also recently opened up a place called Collective 219, which is the same thing, which is a retail hall, but the same idea where it's basically turnkey. You move in, you put your sign up, and we operate it for you. So again, trying to find ways that we can help these young entrepreneurs and small businesses start and grow with minimal barriers to entry, with also minimal commitments. From our experience, again, to sign a lease for a retail space, if you can even find it, and especially with a lot of these small businesses, to find a 500 square foot, 1,000 square foot retail space, good luck, they don't exist. And then to operate it, staff it, sign a 5-year lease, build it out, I mean, it just gets very burdensome and very difficult to pull off. So even with, not only with loaning money to our tenants and helping them from a mentorship standpoint, but we'll even bring our construction team in to help build the space out for them and stuff like that, to get really creative and, again, help them where they otherwise wouldn't be able to do it.
So Neil, I'm hearing all this, and I'm thinking about our Catalyst Empowering Program and the grant program, and we're going to have to put a lot of structure around it to make sure that I'm hearing nobody knows how to run a business, but they're making good food. So we got to make sure that these grants work properly.
Very true.
All right.
I wanted to add to that. I think it's a great question, by the way, because I think we're all talking about working with small operators, but at least the way we look at it internally is we don't think of ourselves as a hardware company. We also have to develop the software. And so I think once we design and develop a concept and we actually build these projects, then the software really has to work. And my best example is, you remember when Apple computers first came out, they were really cool looking, but the operating system was horrendous. I mean, I honestly remember just throwing mine in a garbage can. I got so frustrated one day. So the software has to be developed with the hardware. So the operational aspect of these projects really have to be integrated with the development itself. Whether if it's a food hall, I think it sounds like everybody's on the same program. You know, we call it plug and play. So you basically just come in and plug in what you need, but all of the infrastructure was built for them. But also managing these tenants really takes special tools. These are not projects, at least for our organization. I can't go hand this to a national leasing company and say, hey, bring me a really cool local coffee roaster that goes to Guatemala to buy their beans, you know. They'll bring me a Starbucks, you know. And so I think it's a full integrated commitment in terms of, you know, how do you find these tenants? How do you screen them? And then how do you finance them? And then once they're in operation, to be honest, that's kind of where the work starts, because if they fail, you fail. As Sebastian alluded to, we've never sold a project in the history of our company, so these projects are all going, and you know, I'm excited that 30 years later I can say that they're still going. But I think you really have to develop that operating system within each organization and per project to ensure its long-term sustainability.
So Frank and Josh, so Frank, in the Asian Garden Mall, you have a lot of businesses inside the Garden Mall, and Josh, inside of, you know, I'll use the example of Mercado González. You've got the churro guy, you've got the burrito guy, you've got the whole butcher counter. You know, are you working with all of these, you know, with all of these tenants in order to make sure they're successful, or is it, you know, here you go, you know, good luck?
In our case, we knew that there was, you know, based on the size of the space, we knew we wanted to do 21 different regional categories of food. And of those categories, we had decisions to make whether we wanted to build out those menus and brands on our own, or we wanted to go and find who we thought to be the best operator in that category. We decided on 16 categories that we do ourselves, and 5 categories that we went out and found who we thought to be the best in their space. I'll use just 2 quick examples. One, Chiva Torta, who is here today, the Albarran family. They were behind they still are, behind our store in downtown Santa Ana since the 90s. We know their family for a very long time. We've eaten their tortas for a very long time. And it was amazing to be able to develop, you know, an opportunity for them to come to Mercado González and offer a very regional food called the torta ahogada from Guadalajara. In the example of churros, there's a lot of churros out there, but there's a lot of bad churros out there. And as we traveled through Mexico, spending a lot of time in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, we realized that, you know, there was one brand that we wanted to bring to the Mercado and to work with, and that was Churreria El Moro, who brought the churro from Spain, from the Basque Country, to Mexico for the first time in 1935 to the Zócalo. They have 20 churrerias in Mexico City and none outside of Mexico City. And with their family, the Iriartes, which are 4th generation churreros, we were able to bring them to Costa Mesa, and we're very excited about that. So that's a couple of examples.
We always operate with the spirit of when tenants have a problem, is our problem, equally or bigger. So we always work very closely with the tenant, find out what is the problem, how can we be of help, how can we work around and make it work. So we mutually find solution for the small business. By nature, small business is always operate with high failure. So they need help. They need someone not only help them, but understand their problem. By doing all of so over the years, we find out we reduce the failure considerably. And whether the tenant end up to be a successful operator or give up at the tail end where departure with a friendly attitude. And coming back as their friends. That's how we operate over the years.
All right, so I'm just thinking about time, and I want to see where we're going to go from here. All right, so technology working its way into all of your businesses, new, integration of new technology. The payment systems are all different than they used to be. AI is somehow working its way in. What are you experiencing there? Or is it not touching you at all?
I guess I'll get us started. I'm sure you'll want to add. Yeah. Well, look, I think, ironically for us, the more that technology impacts the business, the simpler the business gets. Because at the end of the day, it's about working with the tenants. It's about operating the real estate. So you need to be more of an operator in an environment where the world is just moving quicker. So going back to that shoe example, the life cycle of a business is much more accelerated now with the advent of Instagram and AI and all these technological resources. The ability to start a business is easier, but we live in an industry that, loans are 5-10 years, entitlements are 10 years, leases are 5 or 10 years. So for us, I think the biggest technological touch point is a little bit tangential in that it's getting back to the real operations, which we have always been very operationally heavy, and working with tenants to figure out more creative solutions and not being the old school mailbox money landlord. And we've always been at the forefront of that. I think from day one, we've managed all of our own assets, leased our own assets, operated our own businesses as tenants within our assets. So we've been very well positioned for that. But aside from kind of the day-to-day admin improvements, it's really been an interesting fundamental change and a change occurring as we speak, I think, in the business.
And I agree with that. I think for me, old school, it's all about the social environment, because I feel like any product that we put out there with this, call it the next generation, it's all about creating the social environment for them to meet, to talk, to have a bonfire, bringing people together. And if technology, of course technology really does help on the back end from an operational standpoint in goods and services, but if we can use any of those tools to bring people together. And I think this is why, notice most people up here, we're all talking about food, because food is sort of the ultimate connector of people. And so I think as long as our focus doesn't go away from this idea of, everything we do has to have a social impact of bringing people together, then I think technology does its role.
So, wanted to take a look at, obviously coming out of COVID-19 pandemic. Want to understand initially just kind of first thought on how your business was impacted, obviously, by COVID-19, but then what was the biggest change that you made to your business as a result of the pandemic?
And I'll give you an example. When we had Rollo Porto from Porto's Bakery here, and he and I had a fireside chat, and we had a few hundred people, attending that, he said that it was amazing what happened, that all of a sudden the whole online aspect of their business completely shifted, took off. They had to build out an entire department just to handle that side of the marketing. And then 50% of their sales were outside of the state of California. Their only locations were here in California. So did that hit you guys in any way?
Well, COVID, obviously, I still have a COVID hangover, but I actually think COVID did a lot of good things. Other than the unfortunate circumstances of losing family and friends, and we all got touched by it, but I think one of the things it did in our industry, it wiped out mediocrity. Because if you were a crappy operator, you shouldn't have been in business anyways. And those folks didn't come back. And by the way, I'm not just talking about food. It could be anything. It could be apparel, And those operators who actually had built a community and built a love and the connection with the consumer, if you guys remember, the governor said, now you can operate, and then 2 weeks later, now you can't operate. And every time he said, now you can operate, we have a line around the door because people couldn't wait to get back in. And again, I think, you know, it has to do with what I call the new economy. You know, we have this conversation internally. You know, there's the old economy where I grew up and the way we consume things, and then there's the new economy, how these guys grew up. I'll throw Ryan in there too. And here's an example of the new economy. So we have our own restaurants, and you know, when I grew up, you know, let's say you drove up to McDonald's and you talked into that little speaker that never worked. You know, you put your order in, and then you drove up to the window and somebody chucked the hamburger at you, and it was like $1 for the hamburger, and then you ate this thing on your way to work. That was a dining experience in America. And so today's customer, this is a true story. So now we sell a hamburger, the customer comes in and says, hey, by the way, the hamburger looks really good. Is the bun gluten-free? And, oh yeah, the bun is gluten-free. Oh man, that's so cool. What about the tomatoes? Where do you get your tomatoes? Oh, I get them down here in San Juan at the farm, and they're fresh. Are they organic? Oh yeah, they're organic. Oh man, that's awesome. Where do you buy your beef? Oh, we buy our beef here in Temecula. And said, is the beef grass-fed? Oh yeah, the beef is grass-fed. Man, that's amazing. Hey, can I meet the chef? Oh, sure. Go in the back and bring the chef back out and says, chef, what's your philosophy in making burgers? Well, you know, I like to keep my meat under a quarter pound because I don't want it to overpower, and I really like to slice my onions really thin because I don't want that to overpower the tomatoes. And oh man, that sounds great. You know what? I think I'm gonna order the burger. That's the new economy. By the way, they'll pay $20 for it. And the same thing's happening, you know, with the beer business, let's say. You know, these breweries, you know, we've done 6 of them so far. It's all about the conversation. Where I grew up, we walked into, you know, Albertson, bought a 12-pack and crawled into the basement and watched football, you know. And this generation wants to know how to make beer before they consume beer. So you have to have the conversation. And so there's a difference between the old and new economy. And the reason I'm using this as an example is COVID eliminated the opportunity for customers to have a relationship and a conversation with their maker. And that's back in a big way, and I don't see it going away.
Anyone else add anything to that? That was pretty impressive.
Hard to follow that one.
No, they can't.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right, so Josh, I remember, and I'll go back to the Raul Porto story. He said it was a huge decision to open a second location. And then, you know, 2 years later, they decided to open a third. And they were very concerned about what it meant every time they opened another location. And it was a huge ordeal. It was a big family decision. So how many Northgate markets are there now, locations? And what do those decisions sound like when the family's meeting and discussing, and how do you scale all that?
Sure. We have 45 stores today, and our aspiration, our dream is to be a 100-year evergreen, multi-generational company, privately owned. And that's, I think, the foundation for the way we do things. We think very pragmatically, we think long-term, and we're not trying to grow excessively fast. We want to grow in a pragmatic way where we can, serve the community well, operate a great store, build the brand, build the legacy, And those decisions are really around, what is the future of the brand? I will give you an example of La Habra. La Habra, we had a store that was a smaller store on La Habra Boulevard. We had been there since 1986. And, we had a hard time expanding the store, and we had tried for many years. We found a center about a mile up the road on Whittier Boulevard with, a representation of our 3 customer segments that I mentioned earlier. What happened there? We were able to not only, continue to serve our core customer, but able to open up to acculturated Hispanics and non-Hispanic food explorers. Why is that? The reason is because for the core customer, this became an aspirational shop. For the non-Hispanic food explorer that would not go down to La Habra Boulevard, it became a safe space where they can enjoy authentic food and an experience and a dynamic environment that they can't experience anywhere else. So that's a little bit about how we think about stores and store growth.
So, as our head of community impact, I'm always looking for how we can drive positive community impact. So I'd love to understand from the panelists, what are some of the ways that you work with local nonprofit organizations to drive positive community impact? What are some of the ways that you work with local nonprofits to drive positive community impact?
I mean, I think, getting local nonprofits involved, we try to connect them with our local businesses. We do workshops. We have a culinary school that's now based at 4th Street Market, which offers entrepreneurship classes and cooking classes, and really try to lower the barrier of entry for people in the community. So if, they can't afford it, we offer scholarships, and just try to get, people that are living in your community, in your development, in your area, to be involved in what you're doing. Because ultimately, if the community buys in, not only are they going to buy in, but they're also going to spend their money there. They're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to come back. And so I think it's a cycle of, if you get involved, hopefully the community will kind of get involved as well and support you, and kind of in that cycle.
We're deeply involved with many nonprofits throughout the county and elsewhere. And in fact, Source One, your original market, is one that we're proud to be associated with, and look at it a little bit the way you just described as well, Ryan, about how that's in the culinary training aspects of it. Then we can be a place to take the kids that come out of there and help them further their career, and whether it's at the Honda Center today or in what we're doing in the future. But we also look at it as, it's not just the foundation. The Family Foundation doesn't just donate money to charities. They look to extend expertise to the charities, to the philanthropies, to try and make them better, more efficient, reach more people, be able to do much more with what they do. So we try and act as a force multiplier for them, so that it's not just giving them a donation to last another year. It's to broaden the base so they can last decades and do more.
I think on our side, we have coming from a family of fashion designers by trade, we have a real soft spot for artists and musicians. So I think we have one of the largest musician circuits within our portfolio at the Packing House. We obviously have the kind of courtyard area, as well as the Stuffed Potato. Then at the Casino San Clemente, we always support live music with our jazz nights. So Devin, who's here somewhere, one of our great marketing folks, up at our booth, she does a tremendous job and has got an incredible roster of musicians, and we're always looking to support them.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because I think we all do best donating our time, energy, or supporting the areas that we're we have an interest in. So my background is it's a Pratt in New York for art, and so we've always had a passion for the arts, and I think we have since day one really supported many of the art organizations locally. We continue to do weekly markets for craft people and artisans. I'm a frustrated musician myself, so I think the music part that Devin coordinates for us, she does a great job. We have music most of the days of the week in many of our properties, so that's our way of sort of contributing.
All right, so I know we're now competing with the food, and the food is going to win out, I guarantee you. All right, so each of you, please give us a quick rundown of which vendors you brought today.
I'll get us kicked off here. So we have Poppy and Seed from the Packing District, George's from the Packing District, and Urbana from the Packing District. We have The Plot just locally here from Costa Mesa, ABBA as well. They are forthcoming at the camp, very exciting. You may know them from their Laguna location, as well as Vitaly, who's been at the camp for quite a while. Yeah, already got Urbana. And then as a kind of special addition, we have if you see a yellow van over there, it is not a homeless van. It's a real van, and we're serving cocktails out of there. We have our own bar business that's kind of ancillary to our real estate business, and Zach from our Hammer Bar team will be over there serving cocktails as well.
We have 3 of our operators here today. One is Maisano, our elevated Mexican. It's pre-Hispanic cuisine by Chef Alan Sanz, who is here. Our second is La Chiva Torta, which is torta ahogada. It's a sourdough type bread with carnitas dipped in tomato sauce and pickled onions. And they also do a taco dorado, which is what they brought today. Then our third is Sushi El Sinaloense by Chef Luis Huechi, and that's a fusion of Sinaloa-style seafood with Japanese sushi.
Wow.
I've had the tortas. They're amazing. I would say for a non-Hispanic food explorer, take the mild salsa.
I was, as it was being described, I was thinking at my age, reflux.
Oh, yeah. Well, look out. So, it's excellent, though. Since we don't have any of our vendors yet, we haven't opened anything yet. That doesn't come till 2026, by the way, the end of fourth quarter 2026. We did bring our head chef, Paul Tran, who is going to be operating one of the stalls in the market hall when we open it up. So he's out here representing the Honda Center for us today.
All right, we have Burritos La Palma. They are known for they're famous for their flour tortillas. They've been featured on Netflix's Taco Chronicles, and also are Michelin Bib Gourmand winner. We have Alta Baja Market and Cafe. They are a deli and cafe that specialize on flavors of the southwestern United States and the Mexican border. And we have Wurst House, which is known for their German, Belgium sausages, beers, and fries. So hope you all enjoy.
All right. So with over 15 restaurants representing iconic destinations, this is your chance to savor the diverse flavors of Southern California. But it's more than just a culinary experience. It's an opportunity to support each one of these local and minority-owned businesses. So as you enjoy the delicious offerings, remember that your support doesn't end there. We want all of you to support these businesses by sharing photos and comments of your favorite dishes today on social media, visiting their restaurants, and continuing to support local businesses. So let's make a difference together and celebrate the spirit of community and culture. Enjoy.